was a bright and sunny day in Long Island, New York. A woman named Louisa Stead was out with her husband and daughter for a family picnic. Now you see, Louisa was born in England in 1850, but she moved to the United States when she was 21. Her intention was to be a missionary in China, but her health was too poor for her to take on such trips, and so she had to remain in the United States. She got married to William Stead, her husband, and settled into the role of a housewife and eventually a mother. Now back to our picnic. While Louisa and her family were having a lovely time together, feasting and laughing, they noticed something in the water. It was a young boy. He was crying for help as he was drowning in the sea. Mr. William was really moved and immediately ran into the water to save him. But then in the boy's desperate cry for help, he ended up putting his rescuer in a very fatal situation. Louisa and her daughter Lily horrifiedly watched as her husband and the young boy disappeared into the water and drowned. This was a very challenging time as Louisa did not have the financial wherewithal to sustain both herself and her daughter. However, they were never in want. Whenever they would run out of food, someone would just knock at the door and offer them baked foods or just leave baskets at their doorstep. Louisa knew this was God's providence taking care of her and her daughter, and it was this situation that inspired her to write the hymn, "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus." Some years later, Louisa still wanted to fulfill this desire to be on the mission field, and so she journeyed to South Africa and spent 15 years there doing the Lord's work. Louisa eventually married Robert Woodhouse, a native of South Africa, and they continued to work for a while, but then her health began to deteriorate, and so they had to return to the United States. When her health stabilized a little, they continued the mission work in Zimbabwe, which was Rhodesia at the time, but then the health situation came up again and she had to retire in 1911, and 6 years later, Louisa passed on to glory. It's recorded that after her passing, natives in Zimbabwe began to sing her hymn in their local language. Louisa decided that even in my pain, my husband could have just decided to be selfish and spend time with us. Yet, out of that selflessness, he went and lost his life. This was something that could have just made her feel very dejected and crestfallen. However, Louisa looked at this situation, looked at what had befallen her and her daughter, and she said, even in my pain and my inability to understand why some of these things happen, I choose to just hold on, because it is so sweet to trust in Jesus.